UFF UCF podcast. And this podcast episode is about grievances. What are grievances? How you should concern yourself with grievances? Should a grievance be something you want to be thinking about? And how would one file a grievance? We're going to talk today with Claudia Schippert, who is our grievance chair. Claudia, do you mind introducing yourself to everyone listening?
Sure, I'll be happy to. So I'm Claudia Schippert. I'm Associate Professor of Humanities and Cultural Studies. I've been at UCF since 2001, and I've been involved with the union and been a grievance representative since just after I got tenure. And I was the chair of the Contract Enforcement Committee, which is the grievance committee, for a couple of years, and then have come back and have been doing it for a few years now.
So for I think for a lot of people, and maybe most people listening, they might have an idea of what a grievance is, but not a kind of a specific knowledge of grievance. So what does it mean to file a grievance? What exactly is that?
So the basic idea is that in our university, we have collective bargaining, which is one bookend of how our rights are established. So collectively, our bargaining team on our behalf bargains a contract that spells out a bunch of rules and benefits and processes that both sides, the university and us as the employees and faculty, agree to follow. The other bookend of the process is the grievance process, is the contract enforcement. So these actually kind of go together. We have a contract that gives us certain rights, the collective bargaining agreement, and we have the opportunity when necessary to grieve alleged violations of those rights. So a grievance means the accusation or the allegation that the university, in the form of one of its representatives, which could be a chair, it could be a dean, it could be a policy, has violated some of those rights. So in short, a grievance is a mechanism to tell the university, hey, you didn't follow the rules we collectively agreed to follow, and try to resolve that problem.
Okay, so can you talk us through a step-by-step of the process? So imagine someone feels that the contract has been violated in regards to them and their supervisor, let's say. So what's the first thing we can do? Because I think, and I'm sure you're going to warn people, that this stuff is time sensitive, right?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things to keep in mind. One is it's time sensitive. So for practical reasons, and we agreed to this at the bargaining table, and it just makes sense, there is a time limit. So you can file a grievance within 30 days of the alleged violation. So you have a month, roughly, after something that you or we would say violated your rights can be grieved. That means you cannot file a grievance and say, 4 years ago, some chair wrote an evaluation that violated my rights. That's just too long gone. So essentially, you have to pay attention to what's going on with your assignments, with your evaluations, with any other things that affect your or our work conditions. So that's the one thing. There is a time limitation on when you can file a grievance. There are some exceptions to this, but this is really the most important thing to keep in mind. 30 days. Within 30 days of an alleged violation, a grievance can be filed. The other is we can only grieve what is explicitly written in the contract. So lots of things happen in our lives as UCF employees that are wrong, that are not fair, that are not just, that are a problem. Many of them cannot be grieved because they do not affect us in a way that is explicitly written about in the contract. The grievance has to be about something that is a violation that is written about in the collective bargaining agreement. So it affects terms and conditions of labor. Our assignment, the courses we're assigned, how many courses we're assigned, how the evaluation is done, our workplace, those sort of things. So the important thing for all of us is to know the rights we have. So to read the collective bargaining agreement, I know it's a long document, it's not the most scintillating read, but to at least know the headlines, to know what's in there, to look at the couple of articles that might affect you the most: assignment, evaluation, appointment, summer teaching. Those are some of the articles that are often the subject of a grievance, because for example, in the process of an annual evaluation, the evaluator, who's probably your chair or director, should use the annual evaluation standards and procedures to evaluate your performance based on your annual report. Now, sometimes an employee will get back their annual evaluation, say like, whoa, wait, they didn't see this, that, and the other that I listed, or they didn't apply the criteria correctly. In that case, usually you would go and ask the chair, why didn't you write it that way? And they might probably change it. But if they don't, you could file a grievance against the university, because the chair is a representative of the university, that your right to have standards applied to your performance in the annual evaluation was violated. So that's one example to give. But it's important to know the rules and the rights and the benefits that we have. So know the contract, pay attention to what's going on in terms of assignments and such things. And if you feel something's wrong, contact the grievance representatives. I'm the chair of a committee, but there's a number of grievance representatives. The way to contact us is through the website. Simply go to the grievance support tab on the website, and you can, there's a link, and an email will come to me or whoever is grievance chair after my term is done. And we will then get in contact with you, talk about the situation, ask you a bunch of questions. You can ask us a bunch of questions. And if it is something that can be or should be grieved, or if there are some informal procedures we can engage in to solve the problem, we will do so. Don't hesitate to contact us if you have a question. Sometimes you might not know, is this something I can grieve? Just send us an email. You can send an email to grievance@uffucf.org, or go to the website through the tab on the grievance support page. It might be something where we can say, yep, that sucks, but we really can't help you. It's not in the contract. Or we can say, let's look into that. Let's see that letter of non-reappointment you got and see what kind of rights you might have in terms of notice, how much time you get before they can get rid of you, those sort of things, what the criteria are they need to use. Those are examples.
Right. So a few things here to follow up. And one is that, and you should always do this, because one thing we try to do on our end is respond quickly to an email about grievance. But in the event we are not responding, you might want to prod us with an email, because sometimes the web page doesn't get us the messages. We've had that problem in the past. People have followed up with email, and we've been able to address their concerns. So if you're feeling, a day goes by and you're being ignored, follow up with an email. We have no problem responding to emails.
Well, let me say one more thing that is important about grievances. Every member of the bargaining unit is covered by the collective bargaining agreement. That's what it means to have a collective bargaining agreement, right? Every member who is covered also has the right to file a grievance. Now, there is one distinction that's very important. The grievance committee, which is a bunch of trained grievance representatives and myself, we can represent members, not just of the bargaining unit, but union members. You have to be a dues-paying member of UFF at UCF at the time of the alleged violation in order for us to be able to represent you. A grievance starts at the local level. We basically file paperwork for you, with you, and it goes to the university to get reviewed and comes back. There's a couple of steps, and it's kind of a process that's not too interesting to describe, but it goes back and forth and then might go to arbitration, which is an outside arbitrator who will then, make a decision about if a violation occurred or not. That process can be not just lengthy, but expensive. Hiring lawyers to represent you in arbitration is expensive, and a lot of lawyers have no experience even labor lawyers have no experience with our contract or with how the collective bargaining agreement works. So there is a definite advantage to being a dues-paying member of UFF at the time of violation. This is something very important to remember. You cannot, you can, but it's not going to work. You cannot wait until something happens to you and then join the union in order to have union representation in a grievance. Makes sense, right? You can't call the car insurance at the time of your crash and try to get insurance. So union membership is a kind of insurance for potential violation of your rights, because grievance support means that you will have trained grievance representatives locally to help you determine if you have a winnable grievance, to walk you through the process, to represent you, to speak for you with these administrators at all of these meetings. And we all have quite a lot of experience of doing this. And then, and that's important, if it is a grievance that goes to arbitration and is approved by UFF for arbitration because it's winnable, UFF will cover the expense of lawyers and legal representation at that arbitration. And that can be thousands of dollars that are paid for because you are a dues-paying member of UFF. So I don't say this just because I work in grievances, and that means I do see a lot of violations of people's rights. But being a member of the union has lots of benefits. There are lots and lots of benefits. And one is definitely grievance representation through trained representatives who've done this before, who know what they're doing, and who will help you, and who can help you, who can represent you if you're a dues-paying member. If you're not a dues-paying member, I'm legally not allowed to represent you. I will still talk to you and give you advice and maybe tell you where to look in the contract and how to do it, but I cannot. I'm not allowed to legally represent you. And you're on your own paying thousands of dollars if it goes to arbitration. So I highly recommend, for peace of mind, and potentially if you really need it because some administrator did something wrong, knowingly or unknowingly, or the university is doing something that is infringing on your rights, to have the representation from UFF. So please join, and hopefully you won't need to file a grievance because your rights will be respected. But given my experience, it is possible that even if you're doing absolutely nothing wrong, that something happens where your rights are being violated, and then it's very good to have us in your corner.
Okay, we'll end on that note. Thank you again, Claudia.
Sure.